Beatrice. It's going to turn yellow, and then it's going to be red. Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick. I'm here in Portland, Oregon. I'm one of the organizers of the conference, and we are so excited to have with us Beatrice Nas Achieng, the founder of Pearl Community Foundation in Kampala, Uganda. She has worked really hard to get a space in a hotel that she could broadcast from to make sure that all of the technology is working and everything. And she's passionate about education and anything involving women and girls at the grassroots. She was trained with the World Pulse, who has a booth here in the expo. And she's also worked with the Community Solutions Program with IREX. And I'm going to just stay here for a second while you get your presentation up. You want to go ahead and pull that up?
Okay.
You know, we're all really new at all this stuff, so almost every presentation has a challenge going along with it. But while Beatrice is pulling up her presentation, it looks like it's coming, just a couple of reminders. There, pinned to the top of the stage chat is a captioning link. So if you are hearing impaired, or if your language skills are low, you can open that up, or if you're having trouble with the sound, you can open that up and actually watch Heidi, the captioner, type in real time. It's so amazing to actually see our captioners type everything as it's happening. We also want to invite questions from the audience. Please send them to the stage chat, and I'll be monitoring those and sending them back to Beatrice. After she gives her presentation and talks for a little while, I may come out there and have a little dialogue interview with her. So we really want to make this as interactive as possible. And even right now, everybody, whoever's here watching, please introduce yourself in the stage chat and say where you're coming from and what you're excited about in this presentation. That creates energy. And that's enough from me. Let's hear it from Beatrice.
Hi, everyone from around the world. You don't know how excited I am to sit in front of this computer to speak to you all. I am very passionate about what I am about to talk about. I really want your attention in this because the work that we do here at the grassroots is the work that you too ought to do in your communities. So I am not in this platform simply to convince you to support my work, but rather to encourage you and to remind you that the world needs you for the change and for the betterment that we want to see in our world. So I am not really fond of sharing presentations, but I am going to talk about my presentation briefly, and then I will tell you more about what I'm passionate about face to face without these presentations. So I am the founder of the Pearl Community Empowerment Foundation, and really we called it community empowerment because my passion is to help people help themselves, especially women and girls who are massively exploited all around the world. We want to empower them so that they can help themselves in their respective capacities, wherever they are. So we are a grassroots organization that started by sponsoring rural girls. So connecting rural girls to sponsors and mentors from across the globe who encourage and empower them. Later on, I will tell you why we are connecting girls to sponsors to empower and mentor them. And we're doing this in rural Toro and Teleja districts at the moment. Our emphasis really is to encourage the community people to participate fully in our programs. So the programs that we run are not merely our own making, like we do not put our brains there and force people to believe in us. Rather, we believe in the people that we support. And by the way, the people that we support are not supported by me, you're seeing on your screen right now. The people that we support are supported by the people from around the world. And that's why we are into global exchange. We are into this diversity. The people that support our work are people from different countries like the USA, Australia, Austria, Germany, Italy, Poland, Norway, Switzerland, UK, and other countries. So we together join hands, our supporters and us who run the programs and the people at the grassroots. So we join together, team up together to make this happen. So our vision is to have empowered communities who can take care of their own development. And our mission is to enhance knowledge skills in rural communities by promoting information exchange and best practices through education, through mentorship, through advocacy, and strategic partnerships. We also have cultural and economic empowerment all together. So in our programs, we involve all those people from the different countries I mentioned to you. They come over here, not just to sit around and see what we do, but they put their hands and hearts together and help people with their own hands and minds. And we have seen people's lives change. So those are all our objectives. Like I told you, I'm not a fan of these presentations, but I'm rather a person who talks face to face and tell you it from my mind, not from the notes that I write. So, so maybe when you get a chance, go to my booth and you'll find out these details. And just, I will leave it here. So I'll come back from here after talking to you about why we do what we do today. So I am not sharing this screen right now. I'm going back to talk to you. So here I am back to the stage. Okay, thank you for going through that with me. Now, let me tell you something that I have at heart that has pushed me all my life almost. The thing that has pushed me all my life is education. It wasn't easy for me to go to school. By age 14, I was a barmaid in my village, selling alcohol to drunkards because I wanted to raise money to go to school. It was such a hard thing. There was no money. I sat after the bar. It was a very risky venture. Drunkards would come in as early as 3 a.m. wanting to drink. And of course, they want to leave even at 3 a.m. Like they want to stay there. Some even tried to rape me, but I thank God that never happened. But that was the hassle I went through to get an education. And at some point, I sat home for 2 years with no chance to go to school. And then I was so lucky. There came an American family from Kentucky who sponsored my education from high school to the university. Well, between high school and university completion is just another story altogether. But I want to tell you that it wasn't that easy because I went to the university under a scholarship, and that scholarship was even terminated because they said I was from a rich family. Someone was malice enough to say I came from a rich family, so they canceled my scholarship. But these sponsors pushed me through to the university, but all through the way, I learned so much. My high school education wasn't easy. I walked so many miles, actually 7 miles to, I could say 14 miles every day to go to school. But I was so blessed still because I was the best student in my class ever, despite all those challenges. So at the university, I studied, and then in my second year, I fought so hard to find a job. Then I found a job with the bank, Barclays Bank, as a sales representative. And in that job, remember, I was at the university doing a bachelor's degree in information technology. But with my bank job as a sales representative, I was able to talk to people, talk with people, and just the mere talking to people helped me to relate with different people differently. And that's where I will come and tell the young people watching me right now that never underrate any job you're doing, because it's a platform for a change in your life. So that job of sales representative helped me to relate with different people differently. And as I was doing that kind of job, I would probably take you to my family as well, so that you get a picture of the family I come from. I come from a family of 12, like 12. I had 7 brothers and 5 of us girls. But I lost all my 7 brothers to HIV/AIDS. And I lost one sister also to HIV/AIDS. And I lost another sister when giving birth to twins. So out of 12, we're only 3 left. And the 3 younger ones, my older, myself, and my younger. So, and my last sibling to pass on was in 2011, our firstborn brother and the last to go among boys. So, while I was studying and also doing my job, all these things were ongoing. And life was that miserable. There was a big gap in my life, in my heart. And I couldn't imagine the big gap my mother was into, like losing all of your important children and remaining with almost useless children, because by then I had no future. So the people who would give her bread, water, or clothes were all gone. So while I studied, while I worked, I did my best so that I could become somebody. But amidst that, as I studied, as my family issues goes on, I also had a chance for trainings in the US. My first training was in technology-related things, like learning how to make videos and photos, and that was in 2010. Then I came to know one amazing organization called World Pause. While I joined World Pause, I was helpless. My family was out of track. Well, I was struggling to work and also make a living and also support. But this organization called World Pause gave me an opportunity to speak out my mind and my heart. And that's where I got the courage and knew that there are people out there ready and willing to listen to my sort of frustrations and the things that bother me. And that's how I opened my heart. And now let me tell you how my life really changed and transformed and got into all this wide global network that I'm into. While I trained with World Pause, we applied over 700 people to train with World Pause. We had mentors, we had listeners, people who would listen to us. And then World Pause wanted 30 people to train. So I wasn't even among the 30, I was the 31st, the first runner up. And then all of a sudden, the 30th person pulled out. And then they wrote me an email, said, Beatrice, you're now the 30th, come on board. And I was so happy, I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. I was counting myself lucky. And then in the training, they wanted 3 people to go to the US. I mean, 3 people, 1, 2, 3, to go to the US for global, like speaking in different platforms in different cities around the US. So what happened? They selected the 3. I wasn't even the 3rd one. I wasn't among the 3. Isn't it amazing? And then out of the 3, the 1 person pulled out. And they became the 3rd person. And they came to the US for the 2nd time. And I went to six states with Jacina and her group World Pulse. And I spoke my heart. Now, when I was in Portland, Oregon, and in Portland, going to make presentation in Portland University, this is what happened. Jacina and her mama sat me down, her mama Carol. They sat me down and said, Beatrice, you have two things you're trying to talk about here. You're talking about education and you're talking about HIV. I was deeply concerned about HIV, by the way, but I was also very passionate about education. So they said, if you want to start up something and grow with it, stick to one. You either concentrate on HIV because you want that to change your world, or you do education. So that day I chose education, and that was in Portland, Oregon. Now, you will get to know why I'm telling you all this in a little bit. So I chose education and presented about education all throughout those cities that I went to. And as I did my presentations, I met so many people who were following up with me. And I remember when I went to Denver, I met someone there, a businesswoman from Germany. After my presentation, she put me aside and said, Beatrice, when you go back to Uganda, I want to sponsor 3 girls. Make sure you go and connect me with 3 girls from Uganda. And then I was like, okay, now this is work. Remember, I was already employed somewhere. I wasn't already actively involved in this NGO world work of mine, but I was employed somewhere. So I came back to Uganda on the 1st of this 1st January 2012. I posted on my Facebook wall that my mission from 2012 onwards is to connect rural girls with mentors and sponsors who will mentor and educate them. And remember, with the wide network I had, people began to ask me, how could I mentor a girl? How can I mentor a student? How can I sponsor? So that's how we began sponsoring girls in school. Because I was one-on-one sponsored, I thought it would be one-on-one sponsorship still. So I had 3 girls in my mind, in my village, that I wanted to connect to Rita. So I went to my village to look for the 2 girls. They all married. So I had to look for other girls. And that thing of finding them married struck my heart. I was like, what? This is supposed to stop. Why are girls getting married this young? Remember, I am the first female graduate in my entire village, or maybe even the first graduate in my village and in the region. So while I worked with an NGO called Build Africa also built my heart and mind in what I do. And also, let me tell you something. When you're working for an organization, do not work for money alone. Work to get something that will help you change your world. And in anything we do, actually, we shouldn't do them for mere doing. Even you watching me right now, don't watch this Madam Out and say, I'm just watching her Madam Out. No, you listen to what I'm trying to tell you to change your mind to be a better person in this world. Because we can only act. We can not just talk, but we should act. So when I worked with Build Africa, it supports primary school education in Uganda, rural Uganda and rural Kenya. And I was working for them as a communications officer. And with my work in Build Africa, I went to places where children study in shrubs, like there is no classroom. Children study under small trees, no desks, no food, no books. They are just there in a place called a school, which was not even a school. The children starving, the teachers starving, and all that all those kind of life were striking my heart. I was like, I need to do something to change something. So I was working with Build Africa until 2013, when I had a training opportunity with IREX under Community Solutions Program. It was a 4-month program in the US. Remember, I was working with Build Africa, and I was earning close to 6 million Uganda shillings, a lot of money that would not even make you, as a Ugandan, it's a lot of money that would not even make you to waste your time juggling around. So if I was someone who was working for money, I would stick to my job to death. So this is what happened. In August, I was supposed to travel to the US for 4 months training with Community Solutions Program. And then what happened? I asked my boss, can I get a leave for the 4 months? My boss was a Ugandan. Well, my work was 80% with the UK team. So working with the Western people hasn't been something I started like 8 years ago. I started probably like maybe 19 years ago, ever since I got sponsored anyway. So my 80% of my work was with the UK team. Then 20 was Uganda, but as a policy of the organization, your country director is the one who would give you a go-ahead for the leave. So my country director was a Ugandan. She told me, Beatrice, you either quit your job or stick to your job. If you want to go to the US for 4 months, you quit your job, or you better remain on your job and forget the US training. So I just decided to quit my job, and then I went for 4 months training with the Community Solutions Program. And when I was there, I was thinking, now, how would life be when I go back to Uganda? But I said that I'll just start on from there. I have to follow my passion. And my passion is to empower people. And that's what I'm going to do when I go back. So I came back in 2013. And when I came back, now let me take you a little bit back. In 2012, when I looked for girls to be sponsored, we ended up sponsoring 40 girls in school. And all those 40 girls had sponsors from the countries I mentioned to you earlier. So, and by the way, looking for those 40 girls was a tug of war. Like, their parents looked at me and they're like, where would this one also get money to sponsor our children? She doesn't have money. She's going to sacrifice our children to the devil. Actually, they were calling me a devil's agent, that I was enrolling their kids to go and sacrifice to the devil, you know? And it was paining me for a bit. Now it doesn't pain me anymore, because now they know that their belief was faulty. It was a mechanical fault in their brains. So now, in 2013, when I came back, I went to my village and I found children studying under a mango tree. A mango tree. And it was 3 classrooms under that mango tree. Baby class, middle, and top class. And who were the teachers? Some of the girls that we were sponsoring, they were just in their holidays for senior 4 vacation. They said, we can't sit at home without doing anything. Let's go and teach these kids. So when I went to my village and found children under the mango tree, I said, no, I have to lobby to keep kids in school. So I lobbied and we built a classroom. I got support from people around the world, especially in Netherlands, where the donor gave me money to build a classroom block. But also, I have a friend in the US who gave me a loan to build the first block. She's called Kara. Kara is also a World Pulse girl, and hopefully she's watching right now as well. She gave me the loan and I built the first block, and then we did the second block. Now, let me get this going. This is what happened. We built the classrooms, and as I talk to you right now, there are over 368 pupils in Portland Nas Achieng Primary School. Leave alone that, the students we have sponsored in school since 2012 to date, leaving aside the children in school at Portland at 220. We have supported 33 nurses, like 9 of them have graduated as nurses, and they're now working and serving their communities. We have 1 medical doctor. We have 3 accountants. We have a human resource personnel. We have community development graduates. Okay, we have countless professions and about 9 secondary school teachers, 28 primary school teachers. We have built professions for young people. These young people were once children who didn't even have shoes to wear on their feet. They didn't even own a mattress. They didn't have bed sheets. They had nothing. So what we did to open their eyes as an empowerment, I told you, we picked them from their villages to city schools. We brought them to Kampala schools, just so that they see the difference between their villages and the life in the city. And they were totally 2 different worlds. Just like when I went to the US for my very first time, I thought I had died and resurrected in another world. It's completely a different world. Do you know that you sit in a car maybe that you have never sat in before and came to the city where there are many lights, television, there's water, running water, good beds, good food? That was a different world for these students, and that empowered them a lot. So these students worked hard to build their careers. I think whenever they remembered how far they have come in life, they worked hard to build their lives and careers. So, leaving that aside, in 2020, actually last year, 2019, we said we have to start a high school because the primary school was already up to primary 7, the maximum level of primary education. And there was nowhere these children would go to study. So we decided to start a high school. So we started Portland High School. Now, remember the word Portland. I told you when I was in Portland City, Oregon, that's where I decided to support education. Now, there are 2 conflicting things. Now, my grandfather is called Poti, and it's on his land also, so Portland. So people in the villages think the school is named after my grandfather. But the school is actually named after the city that I was into, where I chose to support education. So you see when God is doing things, he doesn't make mistakes. He chose the granddaughter of Poti to go to Portland and to build a school called Portland there. So those things motivate me. They just make me feel as if I'm in the right track with my life. Now, these things that we do not do them in a silver plate, I'm telling you. It is not easy what we do. People, it is not easy to run charities. And now that there's this pandemic, the COVID-19, it's very challenging for the people who support our work. and even the people that we support, and even us ourselves. When the government decided to close schools in March this year because of COVID, I just saw things turning upside down. I actually have never thought there would be anything in this world that would mess up the entire world system. I have never sat down and thought the whole world would get a mess like this. So when schools closed and children could no longer study, the teachers lost jobs. By the way, Ugandan teachers are probably the worst affected category of people in this country, because they used to earn from schools, from their salaries from school, especially those in private schools. And now that schools are closed, there's nowhere they get the money. So they're juggling and struggling left and right to keep up with life. And it's not just that, families are starving. Like, they're struggling to survive. Let me say the whole of the world, people are struggling. You know how you struggle wherever you are with the wildfires, all those catastrophes, all those things going on around the world. It may not necessarily be starvation. It may not be lack of job, unemployment. It can be anything, and it's going on all around the world. There's no country that is settled. So, and somehow, this gets back to my previous presentation. The first day I stepped on a platform to speak to people around the world, I told them that the issue that affects me here now shouldn't be ignored by anyone around the world and say, no, it's their problem, it's up to them. Any issue affecting people anywhere around the world affects us all. So we have to wake up. All of us around the world, we have to wake up and embrace things that will develop this world. Else we are all going to crash. And we are crashing. But let me tell you one thing, that the kind of people around me, the people who support our work, the people who encourage us to keep up with our work, and the people who just come to visit, even if they don't make a single donation, they are encouraging us, they're empowering us, they're strengthening us, and they're helping us reach out to more people. So wherever you are around the world, I want to encourage you to just open your eyes and do anything that can help your community, not just you and your family. If you're able to do something, do it. Do it for others. And why did I make my theme into the lenses that change the world? Digital lens changes the world. Digital lens is this thing I am doing with you now. It is basically my computer camera and you watching me. That's one of it. So now that COVID is here, and probably it's here to stay, who knows? We need not to stay back. We need not to give up our work. We need not to give up our passions. We have to create solutions. We have to come up with solutions. We have to come up with ideas of working out things. I am one person who used to value so much sitting in the plane to go somewhere out. But let me tell you something. I never sat in the plane to go and have pleasures out there, but to seek knowledge and make meaningful connections. So whenever I stepped into a plane to go somewhere, I went to seek skills and knowledge, and I came back and I implement this. I hope you out there who is cursing COVID for limiting your travels, I hope you have that passion that when you go out there, you're coming back to change your world, to change your community, to change your country. So now that we cannot travel for now, we shouldn't make everything cease. We should find ways of keeping up with things. And let me tell you how we keep up with things. When our schools closed in March, I went to my community. I first of all said, teachers, now that there are no students, sorry, the jobs have ended. I told the people who did administrative work and all the social works in the village, I told them, now that schools have closed and there's COVID, sorry, there is no way we can keep up with this. So I am working with a few people to keep the organization running, meaning things are not easy. Things are not easy, but we are not giving up. And you should not give up what you're doing because things are not easy. But amidst the difficulties we face in our work, we have people who hold our hands like this. There are people who will never let us go. Well, there are those who have given up and say, sorry, Beatrice, I can no longer support you. I wish you good luck, bye. Like people who have closed their doors. They are there. But there are also people who say, Beatrice, we are not closing doors. We will do whatever we can in the smallest way possible to keep you running. Those are there. Now, let me tell you about what we have been doing since March. We have fed over 4,000 families, people in families with food. We have given them food, we have given them soaps, the basic sanitaries, just basic things to keep them going. So I appreciate every single donation that has been coming through. We have built 2 dormitories to completion, dormitories for girls. And now we are building the 4th dormitory, and that's the dormitory for boys. 70 feet to 30, 30 to 70, I don't know what that means, but that is it. And the money is coming from individuals. There are people around the world who keep donating bits and pieces to keep us going. And those are the people I'm telling you that with the digital eye, this digital lens, I see them digitally. And when I see them, they change my world also digitally. So I think when I see them digitally, they also see me. And when you see when you see someone and your eyes cross like I'm doing now, I'm seeing you and you're seeing me, something changes. Your heart begins to change and do things the way that you think can help the world become a better place. So listen. The car that I drive was donated by someone I met online. I have not even seen her with my own eyes. I have not even interacted with her all my life, like face to face or physically. And now, the house that I live in now, the house I've lived in the last 2 weeks, I got a house donated by individuals from across the globe. I got a house donated by people from the US, Australia, Germany, Norway, UK, individuals, because my landlord, where I stayed for 8 years, he was selling the house and wanted a lot of money. And then so I told my supporters, I think I just have to rent somewhere else, or if possible to get this house. But there are those people who I told you that have held your hand and they'll never let you go. Such kind of people. They told me, Beatrice, look for another house. We are going to do something extraordinary. Remember, in this very crisis, where people would want to spare their coins to do something better for probably their families. These people struggled to come together from all corners of the world and bought this property. And I keep girls who have no homes. I keep children whose parents died and they don't even like there's a child I picked when she was 3 days old. Now she's 3 years old in my house and other children. So what am I driving at? Use technology wisely. Do not use technology to cause harm to the world. You and I know there are so many people who use technology to destroy others. There could even be one watching me right now and wanting to destroy something about me or about anything now. But I want to tell you that use technology to change the world for better. Create the change you want to see. Don't expect anyone to change what you want to see. Change what you want to see. And when you change it, another person will see and also change theirs. And that's how we empower one another. Use your technology. People who can afford. You see, for us in Uganda, we pay taxes to be live here. I paid social media tax. You don't just buy internet. You also buy to stay online. You have to pay every day or every month or every year. You can't be live here when you haven't paid the government. So if you are out there and you have access to these things, use internet wisely. You can still change another life online. You can, if they open travels and you want to go to a specific country, don't go there to see their monkeys and baboons and gorillas and end there. Don't go to their countries and you go back to yours and say, I saw gorillas, I saw monkeys, I saw elephants. No. Get deep into their communities and do some work also. At least you say, I cleaned the well, or I taught them this and that, I taught this. I think the world we are going into right now, we should have community tourism rather than just going to see wild animals, because that's the only way we are going to create change. Like I said, anything that affects me indirectly affects you, and COVID has proved it. COVID has proved it that anything that is affecting me is affecting you. And I know you believe what I am saying. So if COVID has done it, something else might do again. So wake up, let's wake up. Let's wake up and change the world in any and every possible way we can do. I know my time is running up. I have probably 18 minutes to answer your questions, if any. So I will take this opportunity to thank Patrick and Global 2020 and to thank him for the hard work he has done in making this program possible. And I also want to thank World Pause that recommended this program for me. I want to thank Yasene for helping me get into this program, because this is what I want to do with my life, just to tell people realities of life. We cannot live in pretense anymore. We cannot live as if we do not see what's going on in the world. COVID has showed us that everything is wrong, so we have to change things. Let's use technology to make the world a better place, not to destroy the world. Thank you for your time, and I hope I can answer a few of your questions. And if you have a moment, please go to my booth. You get that information. And perhaps maybe I should also take a few minutes to just pass you through those pictures. Patrick, should I do that before you get talking to me again? Should I show them the pictures I have in my presentation?
I think that would be great, Beatrice.
Okay, I will do that right away. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, you're doing great.
So here we go. I'm going to show you the images that I shared here. These are just a few pictures, just a few pictures. So you see these little shoes that are opened like that. I mentioned that we all see and interpret change differently, and it begins with our eyes. I don't know what your eyes told you about those shoes, but those shoes came to Portland School. And I shared on my Facebook these shoes. And I asked if anyone would buy this pair of shoes to this young man. And then the person who was willing to buy the shoe for this guy ended up buying for the whole school. She did fundraising and got shoes enough for the entire school. And that was Natalie and Sharon from Australia. They fundraised and bought shoes for the children in Portland School. And these are just some of the graduates. This is where the accountants, the teachers, the medical doctor, there's a lawyer there, the human resource, there's a community educationist there. Those are some of the young people we have supported. And this is a teacher in Portland School with the pupils. He's teaching. And those are the new shoes that Natalie and Sharon fundraised for. And you can see, Portland has like 3 uniforms. It's a village school, like rural poor community, but we are training children to be smart. Not smart on wearing nice clothing like this, but even in the brain. We train them to become responsible for their own lives. And you can hardly find smart children in rural schools like these kids are. I promise you, if you're arguing with me, just come to our village or our community. I take you to village schools. Even if you go to 100 village schools, you'll not find the ones that are neat and smart like these ones. Because we train them, we put quality in everything we do. So we have a playground that was donated by someone from Norway. Well, she's from Poland and she got married in Norway. So she's a Norwegian, Poland, and whatever that is. So she donated all this play facility for the kids in Portland, and they're happy with it. These are some of the young girls we have in secondary to date. And I did not talk about the challenges we go through, but we do not have sponsors for over 50 students. So if you're out there and you want to sponsor a child, either in Portland School or in secondary school in the city or in the nursing school or in the university, you go to our website. The link is there. We shall give you all the information you need to support a student in school. And I promise you, you are changing their lives for good, because it is only through education that I am what I am and that I am able to see you and talk to you face to face. Some of the nurses that we have supported, you see, me, I don't like telling. There are people who will tell you lies. Like, we have nurses, but there's nothing. Their nurses are in briefcases. Ours are real. Do you see those faces? And then we empower women in growing their own vegetables and foods. And you see how healthy those vegetables are. We have also given chickens to families. There's someone in UK who donated chickens to 60 homes. So this is one of those homes that received chickens. They received 6 each. And these women also save and loan money among themselves. So when you save something, you get something. So by the end of the time when you get your money, you're excited. You show it off. So she has her money there. And you see, I don't need to explain that one. Let me tell you something. When you change someone's life, you just create happiness in their lives. If you have something and someone asks you to support them and you don't know what you're doing to the other person. You don't know what magnitude of pain and frustration you're creating in them. But if you give them the support they need, you change their world, you change their lives, you change their minds, you make them happy. And everyone in the world needs to be happy anyway. So when you make someone happy. We received solar lights from Netherlands. Did I mention Netherlands here? We have supporters in Netherlands. I did mention, I remember. So we have someone in Netherlands who donated these solar panels, like 99 solar panels to village women and the families that don't have power. Of course, there is no electricity in the villages. So he gave solar lights to families. Not only that, he supports every activity we do in the villages. And he said, Beatrice, he's one of those people who have done this. Said, Beatrice, come rain, come sunshine, we are going to support your work. This is American Embassy. They sponsored a training, a one-day workshop for girls in 10 different schools in our community in Toro. So we picked out students from Toro and Beteleje, came together and they were trained on life skills, communication skills, problem-solving skills, and this was funded by American Embassy. And the gentleman you see there is called Niles. He's a representative from the embassy and other people around. So he planted that tree. And that tree at Portland, if I show you now, you know, there are some schools where you plant a tree and they will just leave that tree to die. But in Portland, no, we make sure things live. So you will see that tree if you follow up with us. If you watch this thing and don't follow with me, it's up to you. It's you who is going to miss out seeing change. Now, some of you could be saying, I don't want to see you change. It's up to you. If you want, you follow. If you don't want, I'm not going to force you. But I encourage anyone who wants to see change in the world to join, team up, and let's make the world a better place for others. So these ladies bring tourists from Australia every year for the last 2 years. It's called Little Africa in Australia. They come with women, group of women actually, who have never been to Africa. And when they get to our village and they get to visit homes and see where people live and how they live, they cry. They don't believe their eyes. They don't believe their eyes. So some people just need to believe by seeing. And usually they tell us that whoever has been in their program has gone back changed. They embrace the people around them. They try to make a difference in other people's lives. And that's how we do it. See, this is the woman who chose to sponsor my education. She's called Rebecca. She's a lovely woman. See people visiting their communities. You can receive over 100 flowers, let me tell you. Now, we used to have monthly meetings, by the way, since 2012. This is what COVID has done. Since 2012, we had our meetings every end of month. But because of COVID, since March, we haven't sat as a family of PCE Foundation. So it's that one challenge also that has come our way. We can no longer meet in groups with people. So this lady standing with me, actually, that's me. Maybe I was a bit younger and a bit more beautiful there. So this one is called Mandy. Mandy receives all our funds from the US. She has an organization called A More Balanced World. She receives all the donations that people make from across the globe, from across the US, and she gives tax refunds to them. She does an amazing job with us, not only receiving the funds, but she also sponsors over 8 students in our program. And there she was visiting with a nursing school. This is Kevin. Kevin came in 2018 to teach permaculture to the community. Kevin planted over 5,000 trees, perhaps not 1,000, many trees. And this you see that background where we are. If you come to this community now, that background is full of trees, full of fruits and trees. So he taught people how to plant and how to care for plants and soil. So Kevin stayed in our community for 3 months, and he's one passionate person I know who works with his heart out. Everyone does that, but Kevin stayed for 3 months in the village where there's no electricity. And you should come and see the work he has done yourself. Now, this is over maybe quarter, not even quarter of the people that we always have in our meetings. It's so sad that COVID can no longer let us wave to you like that. So sad. We can no longer meet and share our stories and talk about way forward for our community development together with the community members. But that's it. Thank you for your time. Let me go back to my screen, and I hope that helps. Thank you, Patrick. I'm sorry I've taken a lot of time, but that's almost the end of my presentation. Thank you, everyone who has watched me. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer that. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you so much for that. It's tough to follow that. You brought it all, and everything was there. I really appreciate your energy and the work that it takes. I had one follow-up question. Internet access in a world that's more virtual, what's the internet access like in Uganda, and how do we see those bigger social structures?
Well, thank you for that question, Patrick. Internet is still a struggle in Uganda. Kampala has a better internet connection, I could say, and perhaps a little bit stronger in the cities out there. But you see, I came all the way from Jinja, where I live now, to Kampala to have tailed to make this presentation, just because I wanted to have a reliable, stable internet. I think the Internet Service Providers and the Uganda Communications Commission have targeted fairly developed areas, fairly economically sound areas, and isolated a bit the remote communities. So when we are in those remote communities, we struggle to access internet. So maybe if the Uganda Communications Commission and the telecom companies could strengthen the networks around the country, it would be better. But I want to tell you that people of Uganda, especially the young people, love technology. They use technology. Several of them have smartphones, and even us recently, we bought some smartphones for young people. So they use technology despite the challenges around it. And like I said, we pay social media tax. And that's one of those things also that limits young people or people from accessing the internet. There are many challenges around it, just like that.
Thanks for answering that. So that's the end of this presentation. All of these presentations will be available afterwards when the conference event closes, and we'll be distributing them and promoting them so people can hear all the voices no matter where you are in the world. And I'm just reminded of our opening session where Ibtikar Collective from Palestine brought together people from 6 different countries to talk together, and Beatrice is talking about using technology to make the world a better place, using whatever you have to make the world a better place. And I hope that message is coming across as an underlying reason of why global exchange for anyone, anywhere, at any time. Why are we doing this? Thinking about that. you're invited to come and talk to Beatrice personally in her booth. She'll be there for at least a half an hour. And if you come over there, you might be able to bend her ear for a little bit longer while she's got some reliable internet access. Just click over to the expo and then find her booth, which says Pearl Foundation.
Community empowerment, yeah.
Thank you. And we will be back in a couple of hours with International TEFL Academy. Ian Davis and Doug Waxman will be here talking about teacher training, teaching English and teachers going around the world and teaching English and how that's changed in this environment as well. And we just want to thank you, Beatrice, so much for making it work and raising, moving mountains in order to get, yeah, right, exactly. So we'll see you over at Beatrice's booth in just a couple minutes after we clean up and backstage here a little bit. And thanks for everyone for watching.
Thank you.